It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. And yes, how you're telling on yourself. This is inspired by this bizarre conversation I had on Twitter. It wasn't really a conversation. It's just something that went to shit. And it started Friday morning. All I know is, we had to say goodbye to my dog Loki over the weekend. He had, an episode, a collapsing episode due to congestive heart failure, but he also had a mass on his liver. So, but these guys were still going about this. The day that happened, the day after that happened, it was freaking weird. And I was so disgusted by the behavior and so confused by it that I actually just started observing. And this is what I do when people act in a bizarre way. Because when people behave in ways that don't make any sense, even when people do behave in ways that make sense, if you watch their behavior, if you watch their responses, if you track their assumptions, it tells you a lot about them, what their sensitivities are, where they feel vulnerable, what they get defensive over, and the leaps in logic they make because of that. So if you find this topic interesting and you want to help produce content like this, because this YouTube algorithm hates this stuff, but I feel it's worthwhile, and I'd rather put something worthwhile out that, a few hundred people get real use out of, and it actually helps their lives than get, 10,000 views on a drama video. So help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, Ko-fi.com/LeannaK. 6 people need subsidized services right now. 6. I'd love to be able to give it to them at least every 2 weeks. It's spotty right now, and I get it. Still, economic times are tough. So this is no guilt or shame on anybody, but if you can help, it is greatly appreciated. Trust me. If somebody seems to be getting entitled with subsidized sessions, they don't get the subsidies anymore. So this is going to people who are truly appreciative of this. So Wikipedia editors are an interesting bunch of people. Now, I know some, they're not as involved, and they're good people. But the people who are really into the whole Wikipedia culture, strange people. There's just this cult of Wikipedia. And there are certain things, certain buttons, and I hadn't dealt with them for a while, so I forgot about it. And then, oh yeah, this. Certain things just make them spin out. And I've been following the coverage of the Brianna K murder. I call it a murder because she was stabbed to death in a park, and she didn't do it to herself. And, if it turns out self-defense, okay, but I don't think so. The 2-on-1, that wasn't self-defense. It was a murder. And I was seeing all these headlines calling it a killing or a death, but not a murder. And I saw on Wikipedia killing of Brianna Gay. And it's like, why can't we just call it what it is? Is there a reason? And so I put that up on Twitter, and it turns out the reason is they change it to murder after there's a conviction. However, there are exceptions to that. I actually checked this out. There are unsolved cases, they're historical cases, unsolved, that say murder, not killing. So they are not consistent about this. And this is the thing about Wikipedia. They're not consistent. At one point or another, it does become a series of judgment calls by humans. Yeah, I get it. And so I understand why they'd put that rule in. I'm not arguing that rule. It just is a moment to sort of reflect that, in my opinion, and this is not necessarily the wrong thing. I just think we should take moments and go, wow, the accused in Brianna Gay's murder are getting the dignity and the benefit of the doubt and the protections from society that what was she, like 16, 15, something? No, she was older than that, because one of the people who allegedly did it was 15. But she didn't get that. And we don't know for certain it was because she was trans, but, you know. And she can't, her parents can't get her death certificate to indicate that she was a girl. So she doesn't get that dignity. But, you know, the people who allegedly did it do. It's not fair, right? And instead of treating the situation with the compassion that this one deserves, because yes, we understand rules exist for a reason. And I get why they set that rule. In a way, I agree with it. But in this case, it just feels wrong. Oh no, in come the Wikipedia editors, right? And this one guy was really condescending, really like blah, 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 to the point that I actually said, would you like to tell me anything else I already knew? You know, like, just back off, dude. But he was acting like these rules are hard and fast, and they're not. Because it's only if somebody sees it, right? It's mostly volunteer. It's not a well-oiled machine. I said, I wish that Wikipedia was this strict about defamation, because the guy was being irritating and a know-it-all. Blah, 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 blah. And there's defamation all over Wikipedia. And I know from my own experience, somebody can get an article trashing you, put up, so Wikipedia will link to it. You can't provide direct evidence to Wikipedia that it's not true. You have to get someone to write an article saying it's not true for Wikipedia to take down the defamatory content. That is how it works. That stalker, yeah, kept vandalizing my Wikipedia article and pulling that crap to the point that they merged it with the Ed the Sock page. Now, I don't care, but that happened. And I pointed that out. I brought the thunder down upon myself on that one. This is a crime in Wikipedia circles. I am clearly just, what did the guy call me? A massive egoist who is upset because I'm not notable. And he described me as freaking out. And a whole bunch of other wiki editors from all around the world started like mini dogpiling me. And I'm like, this is not this important. But the defensiveness, and what that tells me is that, one, they're very sensitive to criticism of this sort. And two, there's a weak point here. And this is how people tell on themselves. Theme of the video. If the guy had just gone, stuck to it and been, I'm sorry you had that experience, because it was, oh, well, you have to contact a wiki editor and we'll get it cleaned up for you. And it's like, yeah, buddy, I did. I did. It was rounds after rounds after rounds of it. And eventually it wasn't worth my time. But oh no, it was clearly me. It couldn't be sainted Wikipedia fucking up. Heaven forbid. I actually said to the guy at one point, look, there's a lengthy talk page if you want to go and look. He kept saying, I complained that it was deleted. I didn't. It was merged. Like, it was all just weirdness. And this notability thing on Wikipedia is the part that is highly subjective, and it's never gonna be not subjective, right? Some people can get a Wikipedia entry because of one big thing, right? Other people plug away and are, that guy in a bunch of different things, but they're not considered notable enough for Wikipedia. It's subjective. And anybody with half a brain recognizes, yes, there is some degree of subjectivity. But oh no, not these wiki editors. Oh boy. And they ended up looking like asses. Especially since other people who were the not evil, sane wiki editors were like, yeah, this is why I've backed away from doing so much on Wikipedia, because they just don't enforce their own rules consistently. And this is what I mean about people telling on themselves. The dynamic of a volunteer workforce on something that takes that much time and requires that much debate, that is all ego. All of it. You're spending that much time for and that much stress and conscientiousness. I mean, people are meticulous about the Wikipedia stuff, and you're not getting paid for it. Why are you doing that? Well, there's no cause unless you believe in, a public encyclopedia. People can Google stuff, right? Or it's ego. And the fact that the guy, who's also a filmmaker, jumped directly to calling me an egoist, massive egoist, because I said that was not my experience. This was. He told on himself. He told on himself that he's probably insecure, so he tries to puff himself up. He feels very small, so he acts big. Now, can I prove this? No. Would I test this? Oh, I sure did. And what's interesting is, he tried to bring down a pile on me. He ended up getting piled on because people saw this stuff and they knew the story. They knew it's been, 8 years of stalking with this weird fixation on my Wikipedia page. And it's like, all right, crazy stalker lady, you think it matters one bit that you got my Wikipedia entry merged with something else? You have it, because of course she wanted a Wikipedia page that quite badly and was determined to not be notable. Sane people don't care about this stuff. If somebody wants to know who and what I am, there's plenty of information online, right? So why would this person care? Well, that I don't know. But this is just one example of why it's better to stay outwardly calm, even if inwardly you're not. To not be aggressive. Because the minute you start unloading, The minute you resort to insults or accusations or conspiracy theories, like supposition is a better term. The minute you start taking leaps, assuming, making guesses, you're telling everyone who can see it a lot about how your brain works. And it isn't necessarily you're accusing people of, nefarious intent because you have nefarious intent, but it does show that you're kind of paranoid, maybe because of bad past experiences. But, one thing you're telling on yourself is you're continuing to engage with somebody you claim to be working in bad faith. I do not understand why anybody continues to fire tweets at me after accusing me of being disingenuous. If you think someone's being disingenuous, then what's the point in talking to them? Other than to have a go at them for a laugh. But this guy did not seem to be laughing. There's no point. If you truly think someone is dishonest, why continue to talk to him? Well, you're either a glutton for punishment or you don't really mean it, right? Now, that is a supposition on my part. That is telling you something about me, the fact that I went those two places. And this is why it is always beneficial to make as few assumptions as possible to get a given job done. Among other reasons, you don't have your ass hanging out at the end of it. Giving people a chance to explain themselves. Why did you do this? Why are you coming at it that way? Why did you accuse me of that? It's not true. Not only are they now volunteering a lot more information than you are, which if it's a dicey situation is a good thing, but also you're not making the tactical error of falsely accusing them of something. Because here's the thing, when you do that, when you fling out all these accusations, and a lot of people do this, and it's a real tell that they are in very, very toxic environments. You fling out a lot of accusations, and then you want to have a nice chat. That tells me that this person accepts that behavior in other people. And I feel very bad for them. But I'm going to go this way now because this is not somebody with healthy boundaries. And they are not my client. They are not my family. I don't know enough about this situation. I'm going the other way. This person's damage is not my problem. Right? That doesn't mean I don't care. It just means it's a big red flag and I do not offer services for free that way, right? And I think a lot of people are so far into abuse that they don't see the tells they're sending out. And that is the mechanic behind the idea of attracting bad people or attracting good people. You train people how to treat you by what you accept. If you're going to stick around after somebody calls you every name in the book and accuses you of a bunch of terrible things, you're going to attract people who do that. You're not going to attract people who don't do that because anybody in that orbit, that toxic orbit, has it happen to them. By the way, you're doing it to other people. That's how I know. Proverbial we. All right, you. Not you, watcher, the people who do it. And people who do it doesn't mean they're bad people. It means they're abused people. But hurt people hurt people. And it's very important to break the cycle at some point. Now, no one with healthy boundaries, no one with a healthy sense of self is going to want to be around people who do that. It was really striking to me the number of people during that whole Harry Potter nonsense, the Hogwarts Legacy nonsense, thought they could call me a transphobe and basically a self-hating Jew One reporter called that a minor disagreement. She called me a transphobe. Well, she accused me of transphobia, admittedly based only on subtext that she believed was clear. Logical problem number one, subtext is not clear. You know, it's a guess. But she described me as carrying a grudge. It was only a minor disagreement. I'm sorry, if I accuse someone of bigotry, that is not a minor disagreement to me. The bar has to be really, really high for me to go there. Because I know that has a chance to end the conversation. So this reporter, who is apparently a known bad actor, I haven't been able to get details, but she's written for like MSNBC and Huffington Post. That's not saying anything, but she's got some decent credits. And she's just going out there accusing people of bigotry and then claiming that's a minor disagreement. Well, the options there are personality disorder territory. Not saying so, I'm saying this is a possibility. But that's gaslighting. To call someone a bigot, especially on something that they have put skin in the game for. You know, I've taken some hits personally. I got called a pedophile and a pedophile apologist defending trans people. So to call me a transphobe, yeah, that's not a minor disagreement to me, right? But she claims it is. So either she does this all the time, and the people she knows do this all the time. They just go around calling people various kinds of bigot, and apparently it's no big deal, so the word is meaningless to them. That ain't good. Or she knows it was more than a minor disagreement, and for whatever reason, she will not follow proper journalistic ethics and admit she made a mistake. You know, either she's telling the truth or she's not. And if she's not telling the truth, that's really the only reason why. Or she's just so insecure that just she can never admit she's wrong. Either way, you know, she blocked me, yeah. I ran her off. If it was just a minor disagreement, why the block? Oh, because I, was obsessed. Yeah, right. I made one comment on another person's post where she was accusing the guy she was going after of the exact same thing she did. Jumping the gun, believing in a conspiracy theory, not admitting she was wrong. Oops. But that's how you tell on yourself, right? If you minimize the number of assumptions you make, you don't look like an asshole that way nearly as much. And this was something I learned. It's actually better to immediately, the minute you've made a mistake or the minute you've made an assumption and they're like, that's not true. It's like, okay, you're right. My bad. If someone holds that against you after you've very clearly said, you're right, I was wrong, sorry about that, they're telling on themselves if they can't let it go. Right now, okay, if you accuse someone of racism and you accuse someone of transphobia or something like that, and you were wrong, expect them to be pissed. That's one thing. But if it's just a simple thing like misstating something or misspeaking or something, admit to whatever you can. It's a stronger position. Because if you don't, you're telling on yourself. The minute you step off the path of facts, you step off the path of reality, you're telling on yourself. So it's better to not do it. If the person you're fighting with is a bad actor, you're letting them know a weak point. You're letting them know something they can invoke to get you to spin out. But if the person you're talking to is coming at you in good faith, and you start telling on yourself that way, They have every reason in the world to think you're an asshole because you're being one. And the reason I'm making this video is this is 100% preventable. And one of the things that really disturbs me about media now is a big part of how I learned this was working as a journalist, especially a youth journalist. You have to be so careful what you say as a youth journalist because of all the additional regulations. And it made me better as a communicator. I'm glad to have that experience. But Vox, I saw it over the weekend. I think it came out last week. But Vox did a really good chronicle of all the, what do they call it? Transphobic views J.K. Rowling has expressed over time. And it clearly went through a lawyer, even though Vox is in the US. And it's one of those things, I know it's too expensive, but I wish everything Vox wrote had to have this treatment. Because it's so much better than the crap they usually shovel out that is just wildly accusing people of things. And people are not stupid. Especially not in the gaming space, right? These are, we might be emotionally fucked up, but we're smart people. But the thing about a community of introverts, we tend to think about what we say before we say it a lot more. So we tend to pick up on little nuances of language that extroverts, because it's just blah, 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 tend to miss. Because extroverts spend more time making noise than noise. They miss a lot of stuff. Now, bless Mary Jest, he's an extrovert, but he's actually very good at listening, at effective listening, because he studied, philosophy, and he's done a lot of work that way. So there are exceptions, but yeah, introverts tend to have more of a spidey sense that way. And that's part of the reason that people come into gaming and try to pull this crap and it backfires. Because we've been here so many times, and the same journalist that called me a transphobe, for whatever reason, decided to think it was cute. Because I said, you're not helping here. Whatever cause you support is now going to be weakened by the fact that you couldn't admit you're wrong. People can see this, right? And it's very important that the media speaks truth to power, to powerful people. And she said, oh, powerful people are criticizing video games? And I said, where have you been for the last 20 years? Emotionally compromised, said something most people know. So again, oops, told on yourself. I don't understand why people do this on Twitter, of all things, that's text-based. It's not a real-time conversation. You choose what to write and hit send. People get so emotionally wrapped up in nonsense. They tell on themselves. And life is too short for these people. Your life gets better when you prune those motherfuckers out of your life. Block goodbye. And if somebody blocks you, reverse block them unless you want them seeing your tweets. There are some people I purposely don't reverse block because I, squirm. But if they start harassing people in my mentions, they're gone. That's a big thing with me. But these things matter. So how do you stop yourself from doing it? Well, the opposite thing about being an introvert is that we tend to skip steps in our communication because we think we don't say it. So adding in those extra steps in your speaking can help. The one thing I find really useful is when I'm going to take a leap. And my Leanna Cares clients, I do this all the time. I preface things where I'm going to speculate with, this could be totally wrong. Feel free to tell me to fuck off. And they laugh. People in counseling don't, in peer counseling and in any sort of mentorship role don't tend to do that. We're dispensing advice, right? I like shifting the balance of power because then a person doesn't feel attacked. It gives them the opportunity to go, yeah, that's right. Not so much. Yeah, no, yeah. They're in control, right? Which means I learn. Because the whole point of speculating is to figure out what problem we're solving for, right? We can do that with other things. Like things like, were you trying to say this? Like that's what I did with this reporter. Like, it's right here. You said it was just subtext. You had no evidence of transphobia. You're a member of the media. And then she claimed I compared trans people to Nazis. And I said, I would never do that because of my own family history. I don't like the cheapening of the term Nazi. I knew I hadn't done it. Block. There is no need to do that. She was so emotionally compromised, she fucked up. We all shit the bed that way sometimes, but it's very important to recognize it is preventable. It is avoidable. We all get emotionally over our skis because we have emotions. But that is on us. And it's important to admit when we do it so we can do it less going forward. No one's going to be perfect. Certainly not me. A lot of the time, the people that says I'm freaking out are me telling jokes. I'm just joking. And comedians do that, right? We practice material and it's like boom, 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 boom. Because it's just so amusing. It's like, oh, that line and that line and that line. But the fact that somebody would think that I'm unhinged or obsessed, telling on yourself. I think a lot of people just pick up these words because they think it's a gotcha. They think it hurts. They're trying to be mean. Other times I think people don't actually know what the word disingenuous means. I've actually asked people, do you know what that word means? And they define it wrong. Told on yourself. Because a secure person doesn't have to use words they don't know what they mean. It is possible to tell on yourself less by the best tip I can give, and I know we've gone long, but it took a while to get into this one. If you're not sure, if you realize you're about to speculate, one thing I do is go, okay, I want to make sure I understand you before I proceed here, especially if I need time to think. So let me make sure I understand you because this is important to me. I want you to feel heard, right? You're expressing, I care. At that point, people aren't going to mind the slowing down of the conversation because you've stated your intent, right? You're not dodging, you're not stalling, you're trying to understand. And I find the process of going, okay, when you said this, it was because of that. Yep. Did I get that right? Yep. Okay, and then it's making sure I didn't make a mistake somewhere. Yep. And I admit I'm a bit concerned that the people who are like really involved in Wikipedia editing, because compassion does improve your accuracy on things. Being in touch, that matters. And when they can't even cut the crap over a dead teenager, a dead girl, a dead trans girl, and connect to the emotions of people on that and show understanding of them. How are they making good choices in terms of the presentation of facts. You can't. This is part of the reason that like Chat GPT is really bad at citations. It's fascinating. It's a context thing. And that was when I used to do documentaries where the details were. The difference between an okay documentary and a great documentary was those nuances. One word or two, 3 words at the beginning or end of a clip could really change the meaning of something. And the context in which someone says something and what they say are both important. And I enjoyed doing documentaries because I cared about accuracy. And I was really good at it. I'll probably do another one at some point in future. Right now I'm making a game and doing a show, and that's enough. But yeah, accuracy matters. Accuracy in what you hear, accuracy in what you repeat, accuracy in your claims. Because when you step out of the realm of facts, you're stepping into the realm of emotion, and you are giving people a ton of information about you. Do you understand? I hope so. This is a much longer subject than I thought it would be. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it and can't afford it so they can work out stuff like this. Ko-fi.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and be well.